New South Wales, they want to bring back, they're going to introduce religious discrimination bills. They're going to change things to make sure that certain institutions will have certain protections when it comes to who they can hire, fire and the rest of it. But James, I've got to ask you a tangential question, which is there is a whopper coming to Victoria. Now, the headline is that they're going to ban swastikas, right? None of us are going to sit here and defend people wanting to buy, display or any of those things. That's the headline, right? But the devil in the detail is that in Victoria they are looking forward to criminalising, literally 6 months in jail or civil penalties for people who vilify certain groups or ridicule certain groups. Now, it's not defined what ridicule means. Does it mean that a comedian at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival who tells a joke about two people walking into a bar, bang, depending on what the joke is, fine or jail? James, again, I'm not going to fall for this trick like they did with the gay conversion thing, which is to pretend the headline is the whole bill. That's rubbish. How do you feel about the devil in the detail here of criminal sanctions for ridicule?
Paul, you're absolutely right to call out this tactic by the Andrews government. They latch onto something that everyone is opposed to, everyone's offended by, everyone wants to crack down on, and yet they build in underneath that a whole lot more than that. And in this case, something that everyone finds abhorrent, Nazi and other hateful symbols and memorabilia, they are going to bundle in with some profoundly serious restrictions on free speech. And if they proceed as they appear that they are going to, these would be the most draconian restrictions on free speech of any state or territory, let alone the Commonwealth in the country. Forget about Section 18C of the Racial Discrimination Act. This is 18C on steroids. Forget even about Tasmania's anti-discrimination laws, which were used against Julian Porteous and my Senate colleague Claire Chandler, to try and silence their discussion about matters of faith and morality. This will be all-encompassing and, as you say, indeed potentially include criminal penalties. It's a very dangerous change. My hope is that the Parliament will not allow it, that the Liberal Party in Victoria at a state level will oppose it, and then enough crossbenchers will join them to prevent that from happening, because it would be a very, very dangerous thing indeed for our most fundamental and cherished freedom of free speech.
See, I hope so. I desperately hope so, and certainly new leadership in Victoria will see what happens. But my greatest fear here is the author of the inquiry that called for this is, of course, one of those crossbenchers in Fiona Patten. We know the Greens will back it. We know animal justice, which means there is a path for this to become law. So we need to highlight what the consequences are very loudly about what's going to be here. Because, Jacinta, here's the truth, right? Again, no one is okay with going after somebody because of their race, sex, all those things, right? But the concept of ridicule, okay, ridicule is different than vilification. Who defines it? It, of course, will be defined by the activists, and the activist version of it with criminal sanctions is really weird.
Oh, it's utterly weird. I have to question why, the Andrews government would even consider this. I mean, is Andrews looking to lock up his detractors that ridicule him on a regular basis because of his lack of leadership in Victoria? I think it's utterly disgraceful, and it's an attack on freedom of everyday Australians in Victoria. Shouldn't be happening. Where would they draw the line? I know that there's plenty of, quite often white Christians are ridiculed quite regularly, but would those ridiculing them get off because they receive special treatment, as we always see? It appears to be okay to ridicule white Australians, particularly when it comes to senators like Senator Lydia Thorpe, who's continually attacking, her white colleagues in Parliament. I mean, where do you draw the line, and who determines what ridicule is and who it's being directed at? It's just, it's an absolute, a can of worms, and should not even be considered to begin with.
Well, this is it. And look, as I said, I get it's a different state, but, you can dress up as a nun and it's all very hilarious. Dress up as something else, potential criminal sanctions. Seriously, this is the game. It's really big. We're going to keep talking about it, and I look forward to the word spreading more and more. Thank you, James. Thank you very much, Jacinta. We'll talk to you all again very soon.